welcome back to Daleks Aren't Robots. I am that creeping sense of dread in the back of your head, but you may call me Josh, and I am here with my friends.
Hello, I'm Kari.
Hello, I'm Justin.
I'm Zach.
As always, Kari and Justin are non-Whovians, Zach and I are Whovians, and we're going through all of Doctor Who from 1963 to the present, and today we're on serial number 3, Edge of Destruction. A very interesting episode, both in how it differs from the series and in its placement in the community and in the production itself. Before we get into any of that, though, Justin, Kari, from your perspective, what would you say happened in these 2 episodes?
There was a crash of some kind. There was some kind of base disruption or whatever. Susan tried to stab Ian.
Woo!
My cat knocked over a bottle of water at about this point, like in the middle, so I stopped paying attention, and then it ended. It was very short. Well, what happened? No, it was all, and I do remember that they were all going to murder each other because a button got stuck.
Yes.
And that says more about the characters than I think they intended.
Yes. Yes, it did.
That is definitely a read of the show. I'd say that's a fairly popular read of the serial. Kari, anything you want to add, or would you say that about sums it up?
That does about sum it up. They are remarkably homicidal toward each other, and it's not really clear, honestly, why.
I will say that this is the one where Barbara is actually the one who's holding it together.
She absolutely was. She is the queen in this one.
No, she was the one who had it together through the entire episode.
Yeah.
The only one.
Yeah.
Barbara, I feel, comes across the best of the group in this particular serial.
By far.
So I feel like you're kind of tipping your hands. Did you like the serial?
Yeah, I did, but I do think that, how should I put this? The setup is great, where everyone is kind of at odds and they're trying to figure out what happened so that they can not die, but the resolution is dumb.
It's really dumb.
I feel like that's a pretty common thing.
It was originally going to be dumber.
What? Oh.
First of all, originally Ian and Barbara were going to come up with the solution together, not just Barbara. And the doctor was just going to flip a switch.
Okay,
I mean,
that would have been dumber.
It was like, oh, this switch is supposed to be up. Instead, it's down.
Yep.
There we go.
Wow, that is dumber. You're not wrong.
I will say, people who are watching this podcast in order, first of all, thank you very much. We appreciate that. Second of all, in the outro to the last episode, I came in, I feel a little strong in defense of this serial, because I will say right off the bat, based on reactions I have seen in the community and in reviews of the time, Edge of Destruction does not come across as particularly beloved. A lot of people did not like it at the time and still don't like it today. A lot of people have a lot of complaints about it. And I initially, when I first watched it, had a very soft spot for it. I actually liked it quite a lot. Having seen it a few more times now and rewatching it for the podcast, I will say that all the stuff I really liked came in the first part, the setup, as you said, Kari. And I'd kind of forgotten how it sort of trails off into a nothing of a resolution. And the characters themselves never really acknowledge how bleak it got.
They really don't.
No.
Like there's the apology at the end where the doctor is talking to
I think you mean the non-apology at the end.
Yeah.
He does not, in fact, apologize.
No,
he just
doesn't.
compliments her.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And he gives her a coat.
But I love the new character in this episode. The big new guest star, the TARDIS, the ship itself, which is talking now, sort of, kind of.
This is, I think, the first indication we have that the TARDIS is actually a living ship, which people who started with New Who in particular will know is very much a thing that later Doctor Who would latch onto and build from. The Moffat era, whatever issues one may have with it, and I have issues, many issues. One of the things that he did, or at the very least that writers under him did, was expand the TARDIS as a character.
Yeah.
Well,
actually make it show how sentient it is.
Yeah.
That's fine, but like I have concerns here. It still sounds like a hungry, starving T-Rex, and I'm afraid, you guys, we are going to need to call the Royal Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to TARDISes, because somebody needs to feed that poor thing.
The RSPCT.
Yes.
Or I guess actually, since TARDIS itself is an acronym, it would be the RSPCTARDIS.
Yes.
Oh.
But that's
I
kind of a
stopped listening
mouthful.
about halfway through that acronym.
Exactly. So
Oh.
apparently the reason that everything actually went wrong on the ship is that they were trying to drive into the start of a new solar system because their button was stuck down.
Yeah.
So it's because the button was stuck down.
He spent like 5
And-
minutes explaining how the button was stuck.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the
Yes.
ship stopped and tried to explain it to them in imagery and malfunctions, but it doesn't have a direct method of communication. So it had to use like images on the view screen and stuff to try to get its point across.
Yes.
So that's what actually happened. They were trying to drive into an explosion, and the ship was like, no, we're not doing that today.
Well, I think it was the Doctor has a long speech as to what's going on, where I think what he's describing is that the button is stuck, so they're just constantly going back in time to the point where the sun will like explode and form a star, and so they were flying into the sun being made.
Right.
I think.
It almost sounded like the Big Bang, but like it can't be because they do specifically say solar system.
Yeah, I think it's more the formation of the star that becomes our sun in
Right.
our solar
But
system.
the button is stuck down. So they're heading straight for this big explosion. And so the TARDIS is like, no, I'm not doing that.
All because a spring broke.
Because the spring,
Yeah.
I don't even know if the spring broke. I thought it just got stuck.
It got stuck.
Yeah.
It got-
Again, he
The
spent
spring
like 5
isn't even
minutes.
broken.
Spent 5 minutes explaining the mechanics of the stuck button.
Which is better than the Doctor just flipping the fast return switch because it wasn't flipped right.
Is it?
Yeah, I feel.
I don't think so. I don't know if I agree with that.
If it had taken him 2 episodes to realize that he had to flip a switch.
Yeah, that would have been funny.
That's not untrue.
Absent-minded scientist, you know.
Depends on how they sold it. But yeah,
And
you're right.
And the weird system they have for detecting faults and the electrical system. All right. Has anybody else watched Venture Brothers?
No.
I have not. I'm sorry.
Yes, I have.
In the first season, the main character's super scientist dad built a space station called Gargantua 1. And the main character and his family have to go up there because his father, who was a super genius, mind you, put a system on the station. It's like a computer bank, and there's just a little light. And under the light, it says trouble. And they called up Dr. Venture, as the main character, because the trouble light turned on. And they don't know what it was. They have no idea what the problem was with the trouble light. It's just a light that turns on when something is wrong. And that's what it reminded me of. His description of the way the fault detection system works reminded me of the trouble light.
Yeah, the TARDIS really needs a better means of communication because humans are dumb as bricks.
Like, how about text? Text is fine.
Yeah, text.
Yeah.
Text would work. Morse code would
Language
work.
of some sort.
Punch cards would be fine. Little blitz.
You know, we have lights.
Semaphore.
Words to
have
convey
lights.
ideas, perhaps.
Yeah, memes even. Like
Oh,
the TARDIS could use memes. It'd be like, avocado, help. Avocado, help.
They have just the sad Affleck
Yeah.
thing and the audio clip going. People ask you how you're doing, and you have to just say you're fine, but you're not really fine, but they wouldn't understand. Like
Yeah.
that bit.
Yep. Memes. I'm
Yep.
telling you. The TARDIS needs to communicate with memes.
Or just communicate some other way than a blinking light.
Yes.
People are too
Condescending.
dumb to figure it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, the fault locator is not that effective. A funny thing about that, which makes rewatching the episode a little harder, is the crew would make fun of William Hartnell, not in a mean way, but they would tease him about the fact that he kept messing up takes because he would forget his lines. So at one point, instead of saying the fault locator, he said the fornicator. And you can totally hear that because of how he says it.
There's definitely a bit where he like almost says fornicator and stops himself.
He messed up 3 separate lines
Yeah.
over these 2 episodes. And every time I thought, you're not going to retake? Okay. Okay. Keep going. Okay. We're burning daylight here, people.
Keep rolling.
Yep. Keep
Yep.
rolling. Oh, and Susan got super stabby in this episode.
Oh, yeah.
And she threatened Ian with this giant pair of scissors.
It was
It's
pretty
not just
good.
a pair of scissors. That's
Yeah.
a good sized pair of scissors. And I was just like, oh, honey, We all have those feelings
Yeah.
about Ian.
That scene is the one that probably gave me the most like goodwill towards this thing at the start, because premise wise it reminds me a lot of like Crackers Don't Matter from Farscape and a lot of the Cabin Fever stuff. And I like the reminder that these people are mostly together by circumstance. They did not choose to travel with the Doctor like most later companions would. And there is kind of an antagonism between our two alien pilots with the Doctor and Susan and the humans, Barbara and Ian. And I feel like the scene with the scissors in particular, for whatever reason, the shot of it just feels very iconic. I feel like it really burns into your brain.
In my notes, I have written down as a quote from Ian, "Susan, it's me, your stalker." When she didn't remember him.
Oh gosh. Well, she knew stranger danger, I guess.
Yeah.
The men were so crappy in this one.
They were. The paternalism was really strong in this one.
Yeah,
Yes.
it was.
I hated it when the Doctor lied to the women that they had 10 minutes left when there were actually only 5, which is a real jerk move. And then Ian, he tells Ian this, and Ian helps him lie to the women. So screw both of those guys. And then the Doctor, right at the end, right before he quote unquote apologized, aka did not really apologize. Did you guys notice this? He took credit for Barbara figuring out what's going on, because he put her under stress by accusing her, and that way he knew that she would come through if he put her under enough stress.
Yep.
So it was all him, that was the one that figured it out. And it's like, oh my gosh, you are the biggest asshole.
Yeah, this story doesn't portray the characters in a very good light. And while I feel in the first part that's actually good because it creates good tension and good situations for them to play off of later, they never do. Like, it kind of just is bad, stays bad, and then at the end it's like, we're not going to apologize or correct anything, but we're just going to pretend that everything's fine now.
I mean, and they did some stuff with the shifting alliances with that. And like I said, it seemed like the Doctor and Ian were almost on the same side for a while there too. Because at another point, the Doctor drugs everyone to sleep, but then admitted that he was doing it kind of only to Ian. And it's like, oh, okay. And then he, at least at one point though, he did threaten to put Ian and Barbara off the ship.
He did.
Quote unquote, put them off the ship. So he is, again, 100% willing to murder them.
Yeah.
And I also want to note, just for the record, in this episode, Ian was not wearing pants in this episode at all. He had no pants. He only had on a bathrobe a lot of the time. So we all saw Ian's underwear at least a couple times during this show. And what I want to know is this: why isn't the Doctor willing to murder us? It's not fair. That's all I wanted to say.
We actually got to see how they sleep in this one.
We did.
They have these really uncomfortable
chairs.
Yeah, they have these really uncomfortable looking chairs.
They're like Barca loungers, kind of, or like a lawn chair that you would lay out in the sun in.
It's a very 60s design.
And
it looks so 60s.
It is. It's like a Barca lounger or something. And Ian sleeps in an equipment room off by himself, which is kind of weird because there's like equipment in there. There's like a box with some blinky lights, so some sort of computer thingy in there. And then the women share a room, which it seems like, which is also kind of strange. And
they wear matching matching nightgowns.
Susan's like, is that a nightgown or is it like wizard's
I don't know.
robes?
They look like
snuggie? It looks like a snuggie.
Well, I think Barbara probably borrowed it from Susan because like Barbara and Ian didn't bring any clothes onto the ship.
Right, because they didn't know they were coming. But like, she's dressed in a snuggie, except it doesn't look very like soft or anything. I don't think I'd want to sleep in that. Although maybe if I was stuck in a Barca lounger, I would. They have some cool stuff in this one though too. Like the TARDIS doors can't be opened by accident. They have to be opened on purpose, which I thought was really interesting. Does that ever come up again?
Yes.
Okay, so that is going to be like a constant.
I think so, yeah.
Pretty much, except when the story requires it not to be.
Oh, God. Yeah. Okay, fair enough. They have magic bandages that turn white when the wound is healed, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
It was a clever little touch. And the food machine has a milk button. That's so endearing. Like, it doesn't have a Coke button or a coffee button. It has a milk button. That's so wholesome.
Given a lot of eras get very compact with the TARDIS, we almost never see outside the console room in a lot of eras. I am really happy that this era in particular was very much enamored with, like, we're going to show every area of the room and how they're living and how it's more like a house and less like a magic box that just transports us wherever we need to go.
It's still kind of a sterile house, though. I think the doctor stuck Ian in the equivalent of the furnace room. Like,
We
here,
never
you
see
sleep
where
with the
doctor
centipedes.
We never saw where the doctor sleeps.
He probably has like a palatial, like, beautiful master bedroom with its own bathroom. I'm sure it's gorgeous in there. Probably got like plush rugs and like fancy canopy over the bed.
Well, we do find out later on that there's a really grody looking communal pool in the TARDIS, so maybe somewhere around there.
Oh, interesting.
It's a pool that looks suspiciously like the pool in a hotel lobby. Probably the one the actors and crew were just staying in while they shot.
Gosh. Well, and I love that in the food machine too, like the water shows up in little baggies because this is pre-bottled water, really, I think.
Well, also, I know Canada does this. I don't know if England does it. Don't they have, like, bagged milk?
Yeah, they have bags of milk in Canada.
Like, instead of the cartons that we have.
Yeah.
So England may do that. It maybe they did that in the 60s, so that may be where that is from.
I do not know. I thought it was so wonderfully wholesome that it had a milk button. That was adorable. That was just adorable. And as far as setting, like, the show type stuff goes, at one point someone says of the doctor that his heart seems all right and his breathing's quite regular. Now, I have not seen a ton of Doctor Who, but I remember that Doctor Who TV movie, and it said the doctor has 2 hearts. So if his heart seems all right, wouldn't that mean one of his hearts has stopped and that's really bad?
So the big thing is, at this point, the meta answer is they haven't actually decided that Time Lords have 2 hearts yet. There have been a number of different theories as to why only one of his hearts was beating, and that never gets addressed. The one that I go by is that because this is a doctor who we find out later is coming towards the end of a regeneration, that perhaps parts of his body are starting to fail, including one of his hearts. But a more popular theory that seems to have caught on is the idea that before they first regenerate, Time Lords only have 1 heart, and something in the regeneration causes them to spontaneously grow a 2nd heart and change their circulatory system, I guess.
Wow, that seems overly complicated.
But from a production standpoint, it's just they hadn't nailed down the biology yet. They hadn't decided that that was a thing, so...
So when does that happen?
Definitely by the 4th Doctor era. I don't remember if it happened with the 3rd Doctor or not. But I remember specifically that they have a scene where the 4th Doctor steals another doctor's stethoscope in order to check his own heartbeat, and he checks both sides and goes, "Heart's beats seem regular."
Huh. Okay, fair enough. And my other question is, what did the TARDIS actually do to these people? Everyone is acting so strangely. Like, they seemed confused and homicidal and paranoid. It didn't seem to electrocute them. I'm not sure what it actually did.
Or were these people just a bubbling cauldron of homicide just waiting?
Yeah, like, just all the time? Are they crazy? Like, are they crazy and violent all the time? Is that it?
Could be.
It was because of the TARDIS trying to warn them what was wrong and affecting them.
Right. It's like
and causing the paranoia. Yeah.
Right. It's like it had little rays or something. We saw them get zapped, but of course there's no special effects because they're poor. And it's like, okay, but what happened? Is it reacting with their brain? Is it some sort of an electrical shock? Is it microwave rays? Is like, what was it actually doing?
So
it was very confusing where they would get suddenly paranoid and crazy. and suddenly not. So I need to know why they are so murdery.
Okay, I don't remember if in the episode they give like a really direct thing, but
They do not.
because they say that the TARDIS was warning them and that was putting it on, I feel like the TARDIS has a sort of telepathic capability, because all Time Lords, we later find out, are themselves minorly telepathic, which comes up whenever the writers remember that they do that. So I wonder if the TARDIS was maybe like conveying its emotions to them. Fear, paranoia, pain.
Wanting to stab Ian.
I mean, everyone wants to stab Ian, dude. That's not helpful.
That's a-
Like that.
No.
That's a general feeling we all have.
I'm just saying it's a general emotion.
Yeah.
So yeah, actually, we've talked a lot about the set and the characters and everything being a little bit off. I feel like we should talk a little bit about the production. The one thing I will add on that level, this was written by script editor David Whitaker. David Whitaker was the script editor at the time. Script editor is kind of minorly analogous to what we would call a head writer. Like, he got to pick what stories would get into production and what changes might need to be made in order to fit continuity or fit what sets they have, stuff like that.
Wait, so he's in charge of continuity?
Yeah.
Well, we know who should get fired then.
He wrote this in 2 days.
Make him
Yeah,
tell.
basically what happened is after they finished the Daleks, I think like they were doing like a half season thing at the time, or they were going on hiatus. But what they didn't realize was the Daleks ended up being a couple episodes short of the full order that they needed to fill out. So they're like, oh shit, we spent all of our money. We have no more extras that we can use or sets. So Dave Whitaker was just like, let me just punch out a real quick.
It's actually a little bit more complicated than that. I'll sum it up kind of briefly. After the Daleks was made, they were massively over the episode cost that they had quoted the BBC, and one of the head guys at the BBC, Donald Baverstock, had decided to cancel the whole show. This was at one point slated to be the final episode of the whole run. This was still during filming, so they started cutting the budget on all of the episodes, including the Cavemen and the Daleks, to try and get within a realm that the BBC would allow them to continue going. So this was tossed on to round out the episodes but not add too much cost, and comes out as being the cheapest Doctor Who story ever at £2,500. Which
Because
does
it's
explain.
the classic bottle episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the only real bottle episodes that has been done on the TARDIS.
On this show, anyway.
Well, yeah.
Okay, so it was largely budget reasons. They had
Yes.
to do it cheap and they had to do it fast. So David
Yep.
Whitaker, who I want to point out, he's written a lot of later stories that I would say are really good. He wrote Enemy of the World, which is possibly my favorite Second Doctor story. So he goes on to do a lot of really good work for the show. And so I don't want to blame him for too much, but he rushed the script on this to make sure that it made it in on time, and I definitely feel like it shows.
Yeah. In other things, we discussed the scissors earlier. Barry Lambert had to write a letter of apology. The BBC made her write a letter of apology because of showing Susan acting violent with scissors.
Why?
Because the BBC Children's Department felt that it showed unsafe scissor practice.
She was holding the scissors point down when she stabbed the Barca lounger. I think that's about as safe as you can get.
She was pointing them at her stalker. I think that's pretty safe.
Yeah, that's the safest way to point scissors.
She was not running with them.
Yeah.
Susan Foreman, poster child for scissor safety.
Yeah.
She 100% is.
You point them away from yourself and toward your stalker.
We need a poster. We need a poster with that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Remember, children, point scissors away from yourself and at your assailant.
Yes, 100%. At the stalker. No, I am totally on Susan's side on this one. She is not wrong.
Her instincts at that moment where she had no memory of him were dead on.
Completely.
Also, this was for the actor, for the Doctor and Susan, it was close to their least favorite script. Hartnell hated it because there were too many long speeches. Susan's actress hated it because of all the uncharacteristic behavior.
Yeah, that's fair.
I don't feel she was wrong.
It was very out of character, but that makes sense if the TARDIS was affecting their brains somehow.
I
Even
wish
if
they-
it was just electric shocks so much that they couldn't think anymore.
I wish they had made that more clear.
I do too,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
it was very confusing. You're
Again, I
like, whoa,
feel-
Susan, whoa.
I feel like if they had had more time to clean up the script, they would have been able to make that more obvious.
It
Yes.
definitely feels like a rough pass at a story that could have been a lot better, because there's a lot of good ideas here, and it does ultimately come to not necessarily a great resolution, but one that does kind of make sense in the world that the story had presented. It's just a lot of stuff feels like it's rushed over, so it's really unclear what's happening, and a lot of characters are acting too far for the non-apology that we get at the end. Like, there should be more to resolve that.
I don't know. I felt like that was pretty in character. I have not been apologized to often by older men when they were, because they do know that they did something wrong, but they're too prideful to apologize. So they compliment you and they're super nice to you afterwards, but they don't actually apologize. That is very in character for someone as arrogant as the Doctor.
It was less, I'm sorry for the way I acted, more, you must have been upset when I threatened to murder you for the 5th time or so.
Yeah. But that's totally in character for this guy. I thought it was a nice character moment.
Oh, okay. I guess that's fair. I feel like, given that, the Doctor is supposed to be a somewhat likable character.
He's like older Hondo.
Kind of.
Yeah.
He's older Hondo from Star Wars Rebels.
Yeah, he's kind of this trickster character of a sort.
Right.
From what I have read, and I may have been misled here, Hartnell kind of pushed to soften the Doctor, especially later on, particularly after his grandchildren started watching it.
That makes sense.
So early on here, we have a lot more dark, gritty Doctor, and later on, I think he'll, soften up. He'll grow.
That's character development.
Yeah.
Yes. I also do, weirdly enough, like the relationship between the Doctor and Barbara. I feel like of all of the characters, the Doctor and Barbara become kind of the typical Doctor-companion relationship, where Barbara has a more grounded human perspective where she cares about the people they run into, and the Doctor's a much more big picture, kind of self-motivated character. And I feel like it's interesting seeing the two of them butt heads.
I feel like that even with the non-apology that he gave at the end of this episode, you still get the feeling that he respects Barbara more than the others.
He absolutely respects Barbara, especially more than Ian.
Oh, God.
He does respect Susan, but she's still a kid.
And his granddaughter.
Well,
and his granddaughter. So there's some element of that, but...
Yeah, he loves Susan, I would say. But
you can love someone without respecting them.
That is true. He does not respect Ian at all, which is not unfounded.
No, but it makes it even stranger that he confide some of that stuff to Ian because they're the men in this episode.
Yeah, I remember Moffat did a Christmas episode where he did a stand-in. Well, he wrote the first Doctor in. They got a different actor. I think it was Bradley Walsh. It was the guy who played Filch in the Harry Potter movies, came in to play the first Doctor. And he played him like cartoonishly sexist and everyone got upset. But like the first Doctor definitely had that. There was a patronizing tone that the Doctor took to the women characters versus Ian.
Right. And it's intended to be benevolent sexism. I mean, he doesn't not tell them things and condescend to them because he's mean. He's trying to save them the pain of those last 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, he is doing it from supposedly positive motivations. It's still super annoying, though.
Yeah. It's just a very 60s idea of chivalry to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Right. But it's not like he's trying to say that they should be barefoot in the kitchen making sandwiches or something either.
No, which the Moffat episode kind of does have him do.
Oh.
Twice Upon a Time is not a great episode.
No, Moffat had lost it by then.
Yeah.
So now we got that to look forward to.
While we're talking about the Doctor's relationship with Ian, I do want to say it is really funny how you can tell the Doctor is up to something with the drinks because he gets Ian's last name right, whereas they've made a frequent joke of the fact that he never gets Ian's last name right.
Yep.
Oh, he's he's showing Ian some basic level of respect. The doctor's
Well, and Ian
clearly
catches
plotting something.
on to it too.
Yeah.
And he still drinks it, so he obviously
Yeah.
trusts him, but
Well, I think he pretended to drink it or something, because the reason he's able to stop the doctor is because he didn't fully drink it. He didn't go under.
that whole thing was very confusing. There were just a lot of... I feel like this episode could definitely have used another couple of edits just to make the transitions and that stuff clear.
One other minor thing, but originally the director of this episode was going to be Patty Russell, who was one of the first female directors working for the BBC. She wasn't available for the tight filming that they had for this, but she did end up doing some other Doctor Who episodes later on.
Oh, what serials did she do?
She did The Massacre, Invasion of the Dinosaurs, Pyramids of Mars, and Horror of Fang Rock.
Oh, wow. Two of those are major classics. And one of them is Invasion of the Dinosaurs, which is not
the stupidest Doctor Who story to have invasion in its title, though.
No, Invasion of the Dinosaurs. The biggest problem with Invasion of the Dinosaurs is its script outreached its budget by a lot.
I mean, Doctor Who, especially early on, did that a lot.
As I recall,
to be totally fair, its budget was, £2 and 3 pieces of paper clips and the lint ball.
And almost constantly throughout its history, the BBC was mad about that budget and kept trying to shut them down.
Yeah.
Like, no, you're spending too much. We're taking that lint ball back.
Yes.
There is a brief period going into the third Doctor era, I think, where the BBC gave them like an actual budget and then spent the rest of their time doing their best to hinder any further budget the show got. Because the BBC just roundly hated Doctor Who for some reason for pretty much its entire life.
Until the reboot.
Oh, no. Now they love it. Now it's their flagship show, basically.
Once it got back in 2005 and since, they pretty much loved it. But the whole classic run, they hated.
Yeah. Sci-fi gets no respect, man.
How times do change.
Yeah.
They also have more of a budget now.
Yeah, now they have 2 lint balls.
Actually,
and craft services.
Ooh.
Actually, today, I would say that the Jodie Whittaker era is probably the best from a production standpoint that the show has ever looked. They've got like full HD cameras and good CGI and shit. It looks like a movie sometimes.
Some of that's got to be just the technology.
Some of it, yeah, but like you look at the David Tennant era at times and it was rough.
Even for the time.
Yeah, there is a lot of rubber suits still and some pretty choppy CGI.
Yep.
Well, we got that to look forward to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barbara was the queen.
Yes.
Yeah, for once Barbara was the queen of the episode and not Susan.
Undisputed queen.
Yep, she does get more moments like that, too, later on.
Yeah, of the 3 companions outside the Doctor, I would say that Barbara has probably the best in terms of a character arc.
Huh.
She definitely grows into her own in a way.
That's neat.
Sadly, part of that's because Carol Ann Ford left the show somewhat early compared to the others, so she doesn't have quite as much time to build a character arc for Susan, unfortunately.
Sure.
And Ian doesn't need a character arc. He's Ian. He's perfect.
He certainly thinks he is.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we're done, I guess we'll wrap up. So that was Edge of Darkness. Not Edge of Darkness. That was Edge of Destruction. We're on the edge of glory. We're living on the edge.
And I guess if we're closing up, we should make it clear because we haven't at this point. As of right now, we are watching even missing episodes. So our next episode will be covering Marco Polo.
Yes, you are correct. Next time, we are strapping in to a dive into reconstituted footage, some interesting fan animation.
Minnesota interesting,
and a whole lot of white people pretending to be Asian. Just a whole lot of it.
Yeah, buckle in.
Oh.
Strap
and
in.
No discussion about fire.
No. An episode so boring, we don't even get discussion about fire.
Not even once?
Not even once.
Oh.
We discuss water.
Yep.
Do we at least feed the TARDIS?
We do not feed the TARDIS.
Oh, I am calling the Royal Society. I'm telling you.
I will say that the last image of this episode had Ian in a gigantic coat that made him kind of like a weeble.
Yes. That coat looks ridiculous on him.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
It is a giant coat, and he will be wearing that giant coat into the next story, because next time we cover Marco Polo. Pray for us. Pray
Ugh.
for us. All right. This is the Daleks Aren't Robots crew signing off.
Bye.
Right.
Because I accused you unjustly, you were determined to prove me wrong. So you put your mind to the problem, and luckily you solved it.